Team 29 of 52 teams of 8. Help make America wiser and kinder with antique rival wisdom team quotes that have passed the test of time to make humanity great, with words of wisdom to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Give your kids free, easy, extra advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com. Free, easy math wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. Free, easy alpha Cypher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Team quote 29.1. The fruit derived from labor is the sweetest of pleasures. Luc de Clapier, 1715 to 1747. Let me break down the meaning of this quote. The fruit derived from labor refers to the rewards, results, or achievements that come from hard work and effort. Just as fruit is the end product of a plant's growth process, our accomplishments are the end result of our labor. Is the sweetest of pleasures suggests that these earned rewards bring the greatest satisfaction or joy compared to other pleasures in life. The word sweetest is used metaphorically to emphasize the deep fulfillment and gratification. The core message is that achievements feel more meaningful and bring greater satisfaction when we've worked hard for them, rather than when things come easily or are given to us. This reflects a fundamental aspect of human psychology. We tend to value things more when we've invested our own time, effort, and dedication into obtaining them. For example, a student who studies diligently feels more pride in their good grades. An athlete who trains consistently enjoys their victories more deeply. An artist who perfects their craft finds more joy in their completed works. A gardener who tends their plants daily takes greater pleasure in the harvest. Luc de Clapiers, also known as Marquis de Vauvenargues, was expressing an insight about human nature that remains relevant today, that the process of working towards something, though sometimes difficult, makes the eventual success all the more rewarding. Team quote 29.2. True change takes place in the imagination. Thomas More, 1779 to 1852. Let me analyze this insightful quote from Thomas More. At its core, this quote suggests that genuine transformation begins in our minds before it manifests in reality. The imagination here isn't just about fantasy. It's about our capacity to envision different possibilities, new ways of being, and alternative futures. More is suggesting that before we can create external changes in our lives, society, or the world, we must first be able to imagine those changes. Our imagination allows us to picture a different way of living, envision solutions to problems, see ourselves becoming something new, conceive of better possibilities. This process mirrors how many great achievements throughout history began. Someone first had to imagine them. Whether it was civil rights leaders imagining a more equitable society, scientists imagining new theories about the universe, inventors imagining new technologies, artists imagining new forms of expression. It's worth noting that More was an Irish poet, singer, and songwriter who wrote during a time of significant social and political change. His understanding of imagination's role in change likely came from his own experience as an artist and his observations of how new ideas can transform society. Team quote 29.3. Persuasion is often more effectual than force. Aesop, 621 BC, 564 BC. This quote from Aesop, the ancient Greek storyteller famous for his fables, conveys a timeless principle about human nature and influence. The wisdom here lies in understanding that changing someone's mind or behavior through reasoning, diplomacy, and persuasion is often more effective than using coercion or force. When people are convinced rather than compelled, they internally accept and embrace the change. The change tends to be more lasting. Relationships remain intact or are strengthened. There's no resentment or resistance that often comes with force. This principle appears throughout Aesop's fables, like in The North Wind and the Sun, where the sun's warmth succeeds in getting a traveler to remove his cloak after the wind's forceful attempts fail. It's a principle that remains deeply relevant today in leadership and management, international diplomacy, education, personal relationships, social change movements. The quote also suggests something profound about human psychology, that we are naturally resistant to force but open to being convinced when approached with respect for our capacity to reason and choose. Team quote 29.4. Genius is the recovery of childhood at will. Arthur Rimbaud, 1854–1891. This is a fascinating observation from Rimbaud, the French poet who himself was something of a child prodigy, writing his most influential works as a teenager. The quote suggests that genius lies in being able to consciously access the qualities we naturally possess as children: unbounded imagination and creativity, freedom from conventional thinking, natural curiosity and wonder, the ability to see things anew without preconceptions, emotional openness and sensitivity, willingness to experiment and play. What makes this, at will, aspect so crucial is that it implies a controlled ability to tap into these childlike qualities while retaining adult knowledge and skill. True genius, by this definition, is not about permanently remaining childlike, but rather having the ability to deliberately access that state when needed for creative or intellectual purposes. This connects interestingly to Rimbaud's own life and work. He advocated for a derangement of the senses to achieve poetic vision, essentially describing a deliberate disruption of adult patterns of thought to access new perspectives. The quote also suggests something profound about the nature of creativity, that perhaps our creative powers don't necessarily develop as we age, but rather become buried under layers of socialization and learned behavior. The genius, then, is one who can peel back these layers when needed. Team quote 29.5. Speak softly, carry a big stick and you'll go far. Theodore Roosevelt, 1858–1919. This famous quote from Theodore Roosevelt encapsulates his approach to diplomacy and leadership during his presidency. Speak softly advocates for diplomatic, measured communication, using calm negotiation, restraint, and respectful dialogue rather than aggressive rhetoric or threats. Carry a big stick refers to having strong capabilities, military, economic, or personal power in reserve. The stick represents the ability to back up one's position with force if necessary. Together, the philosophy suggests that the most effective way to achieve goals is to lead with diplomacy and peaceful negotiation, maintain strong capabilities as a deterrent, be prepared to use power if diplomacy fails, stay calm while being powerful. Roosevelt applied this principle both in domestic politics and international relations. As president, 1901–1909, he negotiated peace in the Russo-Japanese War, winning the Nobel Peace Prize, used the threat of federal power to handle domestic issues like trust-busting, built up the U.S. Navy while pursuing diplomatic solutions. The wisdom extends beyond politics to general leadership and personal conduct, suggesting that quiet confidence backed by real capability is more effective than aggressive bluster or empty threats. Team quote 29.6. Most mothers are instinctive philosophers. Harriet Beecher Stowe, 1811–1896. This thoughtful observation from Harriet Beecher Stowe, the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin, recognizes the deep wisdom inherent in motherhood. By calling mothers instinctive philosophers, Stowe suggests that the experience of motherhood naturally leads to deep contemplation about life's fundamental questions, wisdom about human nature that comes from nurturing and observing children grow, understanding of moral and ethical principles through teaching right from wrong, recognition of cause and effect through managing behavior and consequences, insight into human development and the formation of character, practical wisdom about what truly matters in life. The word instinctive is particularly interesting here. It suggests this philosophical nature isn't necessarily learned through formal education, but rather emerges naturally through the experience of mothering. Through daily care, guidance, and decision-making, mothers often develop an intuitive understanding of human psychology, The ability to see long-term consequences of present actions. Skills in mediating conflicts and teaching empathy. Wisdom about balancing justice with mercy. Deep insights into the nature of love, sacrifice, and growth. This perspective was particularly noteworthy coming from Stowe, who combined her own experience as a mother with her role as a prominent social reformer and writer. Team quote 29.7. Courtesy is the one coin you can never have too much of or be stingy with. John Wanamaker, 1838–1922. This is a beautifully crafted metaphor from John Wanamaker, the American merchant who pioneered the department store concept and was known for his business innovations and public service. By comparing courtesy to a coin, Wanamaker makes several subtle points. Like money, courtesy can be given and received. Unlike money, courtesy doesn't diminish when shared. Courtesy, like currency, facilitates smooth social transactions. Being courteous costs nothing but has great value. The second part of the quote, can never have too much of or be stingy with, teaches two complementary lessons. 1. No amount of courtesy is excessive. 2. Withholding courtesy, being stingy, is always a mistake. This wisdom particularly resonated coming from Wanamaker, who revolutionized retail by emphasizing customer service and respect for customers. He understood that courtesy builds relationships, creates goodwill, opens doors, makes difficult situations easier, benefits both the giver and receiver. The enduring truth of this observation is evident in how courtesy remains essential in both personal and professional contexts, from social media interactions to business relationships. Team quote 29.8. From the errors of others, a wise man corrects his own. Publilius Cyrus, 85 BC, 45 BC. This insightful quote from Publilius Cyrus, a Latin writer known for his moral sayings, sententiae, captures the essence of learning through observation. The quote points to a particularly efficient form of wisdom. Learning from others' mistakes means we don't have to make them all ourselves. It requires humility to see how others' errors could be our own. It demonstrates that wisdom comes not just from experience, but from reflection. It shows that every mistake we witness is a potential lesson. The word corrects is especially significant because it implies active learning rather than passive observation, taking preventive action, self-improvement through awareness, personal responsibility for change. This approach to learning is both practical and efficient, rather than waiting to make every possible mistake, learning only through personal trial and error, dismissing others' failures as irrelevant, judging others while failing to self-reflect. The wise person described by Cyrus uses others' experiences as a mirror to examine their own potential for similar errors and takes preemptive action to avoid them. If you'd like to help raise school test scores and self-confidence, you can give your kids free, easy, extra advantage math, spelling, and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free, easy math wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free, easy alpha Cypher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this Cypher quote of encouragement using either our Learning to Spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And, if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. Therefore I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city, or state. Join the 52 of 8 today at 52of8.com.